Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll be talking about the NFL's Week 11, some recap of some games there, including the Chiefs' not so great game against the Denver Broncos. We'll talk very briefly about Major League Baseball awards season, and we'll also get into our NFL's Week 12 preview with our new locks of the week, which are been a mixed bag of late. Uh, Up for some, down for some this time, for one of us each this time. So we'll get into those, how we did this week and what we look for next week, later in the show today. But we'll begin today with the Chiefs, possibly maybe not looking like they're in playoff contention this season, Mike. They dropped another relatively close game here. Their fifth one-score loss of the season for their total of fifth loss of the year as well. Mike now sitting at 5-5, distant, distantly back in the division, and sitting on the outside of the playoffs right now. Are you ready to write this season off, or do you think there's still hope for the team to make the playoffs before the year's over?
I think there's still hope, but it's one of these things where we had talked about them before. They're racking up losses, which is a problem. Even though they might be a good team, but they didn't have any margin for error because of the way they started the season, basically. So now they're losing a game here and there against good teams, and it's going to be tough. They play some good teams later in the schedule. They play Indianapolis next week, who's been very strong this year. They play the Broncos again. They play the Chargers. They play the Texans, who are fighting for playoff position as well. They play the Cowboys, who are maybe tough at home on Thanksgiving. So, they're not out of the woods yet. They do play, Tennessee. They play the Raiders again, and they have a couple of easier games, but maybe they'll be favored in each of the games that they play. But um, they, really almost to have any shot at the division, they need to win out. And they probably could only lose one more game to actually think that they're gonna make, assuredly make the playoffs because 10-7, might be good enough and but it also might be, there's some tiebreakers that are there. If they finish 10-7 and the Jaguars also finish 10-7, the Jaguars are going to be in the playoffs, or the Chargers,
Buffalo
at least right
or
now, Buffalo right now. Yeah, so um, they do have tiebreakers over Baltimore, which is good. And if they beat the Texans, they'll have tiebreakers over them, and maybe eventually they might have a tiebreaker over the Chargers or even or some team like that, but it'll
at least be
require
neutral against them, right?
yeah, it'll require like a
And the
division
head-to-heads.
head-to-head sort of win. Um, but it'll be yeah, it's going to be tough to make the playoffs because there have been so many teams that have winning records this year, and it's the Broncos are I think 9-2 right now. The
Yeah.
Colts are 8-2 or 9-2. So are the Patriots. So. Um,
And the Broncos are one of those teams that have been winning all these very close games, though. So they've got a lot of close wins, and they're
Yeah, they're like the
of their
Chiefs were
nine
last
wins.
year. And the Chiefs have every game the Chiefs have played close, they've lost. Their own, like you said, their own 5 and 1 score games. So, um, they've won games easily, but they haven't won games close this year. Maybe again, it's just sort of random, really. Sometimes the close games, but also the Chiefs haven't played well in the ends of games. They let that in the Jacksonville game, they let the Jaguars score at the end. They played poorly at the end of this Buffalo, not Buffalo, the Denver game. They kind of clawed their way back and made the Eagles game close, and it seemed like maybe the Buffalo game they were never quite as close as the score indicated. It seemed like maybe they lost only by 6, but it seemed like they were down by more than that. Buffalo missed field goal at the end kind of kept them in it. Um,
Well, and gave the Chiefs some kind of shot, right,
yeah.
to tie it up, or perhaps.
Yeah, but they haven't been taking advantage
Yeah.
of those chances at all. They went 3 and out, I think, on the last 2 drives they had, against Denver, and neither one looked very good. And I don't know, it seems like they're disjointed on offense. The way they sometimes they just chuck it deep for 3 or 4 times in a row, and hopefully one of them gets caught. If it's not the Thornton, it doesn't seem like any of the deep shots are working this time of the season. So it's
One Thornton kind of has kind of disappeared a little bit too after Rice came back.
yeah.
So yeah, it seems like maybe that's that. If he's out there, they know he's a deep threat option only, and maybe that makes him a little more easy to decode,
It could, yeah.
perhaps.
And Rice had a couple of drops against
Yeah,
Denver too that were maybe pivotal. So he had a bad game. Um, Kelsey had a decent game again. Seems like he's playing pretty well lately when he's not dropping the ball into the other team's hands.
right. He
Um,
did. He racked up a bunch of catches like in the second half, where he
yeah,
looked pretty solid. Like we're like old school Kelsey,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
Almost like kind of quick slants and
He had
uh
a touchdown he looked pretty good on. That was his record-breaking Chiefs touchdown. Uh,
yeah,
More touchdowns than even Priest Holmes had in his. Although Holmes did his like in like 3 or 4 years, it seems like Kelsey's
right.
over the course of many years. But um, yeah, it's been tough. I don't. Mahomes threw a bad interception near the goal line that really cost the Chiefs.
After having thrown a bad interception earlier in the drive that was erased by a penalty though too, right?
Yeah,
So it's like he got it back, but then that result seemed destined almost, right?
yeah, it was not good. I don't know if Mahomes is trying to spread the ball maybe more than he should. He should just go for the open guy rather than trying to get everybody involved. Um, because some games maybe Worthy's not going to have a catch, and maybe it seems like they've been. I don't know. Worthy also seems like he's still not himself.
Maybe not 100%.
Maybe because of his shoulder injury, he's been kind of um, just nursing it a little bit. I don't know. It just they're
So
and the defense has been okay, but they haven't been that great either. So they holding Denver to 22 uh isn't terrible, but it's also maybe they allowed Denver to score, especially in the second half, quite a few times. So uh,
yeah,
maybe there were a couple of missed like offensive pass interference penalties on a pass here or there that the Broncos kind of got away with on one of the big passes to Sutton, I think it was. But again, that going for relying on stuff like that is not a winning recipe either. So they also had an extra point blocked. So Butker missed another one.
he also kicked another kickoff out of bounds.
Out of bounds kickoff. Yeah.
Those are those little infuriating things that like really do not help when you're
Mhm.
playing tight games.
Yeah. So it was just I don't know. I'm tempted to think that the Chiefs can get hot and turn it on, but I also think maybe this just isn't their year. Uh,
Certainly looking
maybe they
that
just
way
need to
right now.
maybe they need to retool and get a little younger in areas or something. I'm not sure if this is like a soft rebuild that they'll need.
But
Uh, but Mahomes hasn't looked that great the last couple of games either. So I don't know. He was looking really good for a while this season. Then he's kind of slumped the last couple of games again. So I'm not sure. I don't know
well,
if
the
that's
offensive line has sort of been variable the last couple of weeks too, right? So like it
yeah.
hasn't been the same guys. Simmons was back this week, but maybe wasn't quite 100%. We saw
Yeah,
another improperly lined up
Jawan Taylor.
uh
That was a big penalty.
yeah,
But yeah, it seems like I don't know. Maybe it's coaching too because the offense hasn't looked very sharp. Pacheco's been out, so maybe that's part of the running game. They don't have the 1-2 punch that they did, but it seems like they just aren't able to make easy passes either. It's just and there's not a lot of really open guys. There's not a lot of um, I don't know. It just hasn't been because last year everything was like pulling teeth with the offense, and then this year times it's been a lot better, but it's gone back to kind of pulling teeth the last couple of weeks.
We saw like this week, we even saw like flashes of them being really accurate and really able to move the ball well quickly. But
Hmm.
a lot of it seems like it's about like kind of those timing kind of plays where it's like the short pass is essentially a run play, right? And instead of like having to try to run the ball like consistently, you can they sort of sprinkle those sort of little plays in to like, at least balance the offense a bit before instead of just like, chucking it downfield three times in a row like they did a few times in that
Yeah, the
game.
opening drive I think was like that, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was
So like I
yeah.
mean you don't have to run the ball on first and second down and then throw it on third down. I mean there are,
Mhm.
you can still do those like little short plays that are just like timing sort of passes for short yardage that still like move the ball forward, but they had very few like third and shorts. It was they got either big chunks of yards or they were playing from like third and 10 all day, weren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah. It seemed like there were a lot of 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 plus. And it seems like the Chiefs aren't, previous generations of the Chiefs, it seems like we're able to just rely on Mahomes to, grit and gut out those third and longs every time. But it seems like this year those haven't been as successful. So they need to, yeah, they need more consistency. It wasn't a great game. And again, they're playing a good team at Denver, but they don't have losing that game is it's nothing to sneeze at, to turn your nose at, but like it's just, well, you can't keep doing that now because the Chiefs are 5-5. If the Chiefs were going in, we're 7-2, you know, 7-3 would be a different, story than, 5-5. Maybe they'd be behind Denver in the playoff race, but they'd still have a game against home against Denver, and they'd still have a winning record. But they've lost some of those games early on that they couldn't afford to lose. And then when they got into this tough part of the schedule, knowing that a loss might come about, it's been yeah, it just they just didn't have the like I said margin for error that they have had in the past. So if they enter a little slump, it's much more magnified than it would be, if they had beaten like if they had beaten the Eagles and they had beaten the Jaguars or something like that, or you know, it would be
In winning any of those close games,
yeah,
basically, right?
yeah. If had been just sort of 500-ish in the close games, uh,
Yeah.
it would be a lot different.
Do you think that the offensive inconsistency is actually contributing to the defensive issues they've had in the second half? Like, do you think that the offensive, not being on the field enough is making the defense be out there so much that they're a little more tired when it comes to the second half? And maybe that's contributing to some of these late losses then too.
I think you could probably say that in Denver, especially because the altitude issues, probably the defense was more tired, and maybe the offense was more tired too. Maybe just the Chiefs are not as used to that altitude as the Broncos, and that's it's a major home field advantage that the Broncos have, and that kind of
Sure.
gets forgotten sometimes. Just talking about why the Broncos are so good at home is because, well, they have this altitude advantage, and they can, you know, they're more used to it than the more sea level-y teams are.
Which are
And
basically all of the rest of the teams.
yeah, there's no yeah. Um
There aren't that
that
many even like moderately high teams, right? Then
yeah, it'd be like Pittsburgh or teams that are in the Appalachians or something like that, maybe or Carolina or something, or but maybe even the Chiefs kind of just as the planes get a little higher as they go out west. Um yeah, there's Phoenix maybe has some altitude to it.
that's probably the next. That I would guess that would be the next closest. Yeah, do you think there's a ranking of NFL teams by altitude? NFL home stadiums by altitude?
Yeah, let's see. So the lowest altitude is the Superdome in New Orleans at 3 feet.
As I was going to say, it's essentially zero, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a good list of it. It's not a very.
Yeah, but this AI generated result for the query that I had made was
Oh, here I found
oh,
one.
I got one too, yeah.
So, so Phoenix
Arizona is too.
10,070. Georgia, Atlanta's third, and then Kansas City
Fourth, yeah.
fourth. So 889 feet. So yeah, there's nothing close to Mile High. Nothing within 4,000 feet
Right.
of Mile High. Because there's no Salt Lake City team or some Albuquerque or some other mountainous um, team. So yeah, there are one, two.
Would you like to see a stadium who actually puts their stadium on a bit of a slope, so you actually have to like go uphill,
Well,
like some quarters and downhill some quarters. Would that be more interesting, Mike? The field
I don't know
itself
if
is
it'd be
not level.
interesting. I don't know if people don't play on a field like that. They would say it's not a level playing field. They would say. Um,
It's literally not a level playing field. But
they
you,
I
but it
think
would,
I think
you would know what your advantage is, and
I think
the
some fields
coin
are
toss
kind
would
of
become much more
raked,
important, right?
have are kind of raked in the middle, and kind of the center of the field maybe is a little bit higher than the other, just to allow drainage, uh,
Right, right.
by something like that. Um, but maybe not. I don't know. But
Yeah, I think a lot of stadiums now have like a sort of like a false deck, basically,
yeah,
to like allow drainage to go like directly down,
yeah, but
which is
yeah, it's
pretty
crazy
crazy.
how there are more. Yeah, one, two, three, four,
Especially like
six.
those like multi-purpose stadiums that they do other things besides just football games. So they protect the
Yeah,
grass and sometimes like will remove it all,
yeah,
like transport the entire deck of the field out of the stadium on non-NFL
hmm.
game times, right?
That's right.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, really. That's even something that's possible to do, right? But anyway, Mike, have we talked about the Chiefs enough?
I
We
I don't want to go through it anymore. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of coaching problems. I think we can also point to Matt Nagy as an issue. Uh, again, maybe Andy Reid. The offense seems stale. I think sometimes coming out of a bye, they didn't have anything really exciting planned. Like, and they also again, they allowed early points to they were kind of lucky. They only allowed 6 points in the first two possessions to um, um, the Broncos. Broncos could have probably scored two touchdowns early on, but the defense held to field goals, which was the defense played pretty well, I think, though. Um, Game, but yeah, it's just this wasn't their day, obviously. It also wasn't your day in terms of locks of the week. I did all right. I was 2-1. You were 0 for 3.
continue
Should
to
we
my
want?
all or nothing
Yeah, you've been I
trend.
think 5 of the last 7 weeks. You've been either 3-0 or 0-3.
Uh,
Um, so do you want to go through the locks of the our ill fit some sort of mixed bag of locks of the week? We'll start with your ill-fated locks, and then we'll continue towards my slightly better locks.
yes. Yeah, and I'll get my full on dud of the week out of the way first. I had the Chargers, expecting them to win and cover against Jacksonville. That game did not go anywhere close to that expectation. Jacksonville ended up trouncing the Chargers 35-3 in Jacksonville. So not anywhere close to the needing a 3-point cover for more than a field goal win for the Chargers. Instead, they lose by 32 points. So that's very, very not close, Mike. So
Yeah,
0
that
and
wasn't
1 right
even.
off the bat.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected. Neither of us expected the game to go like that. I wouldn't have. Like, seeing Jacksonville win at home wouldn't have been the biggest stunner of the year, but by winning 35-3, that was a crazy game. That was one of those games that's kind of the equivalent of, remember earlier this year, Atlanta losing at the Panthers 30-0. I think that was one of our big surprises of the year. Um, we'll talk about, speaking of the Panthers Falcons. I made a bet on this week's Panthers Falcons to turn out much better, but yeah, I don't think either of us expected that. I don't know how many people expected that a a Chargers team just to lay a big egg like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Oh well. Apparently I was wrong. The score was actually 35-6, so that's not much better.
no, 35-6, that's what it was. Yeah.
Sorry. So
Then it lost by 29 then.
yeah, only a 29-point loss, Mike. I overdid it a bit. Yes. 35-6. But
We'll
yeah,
have to, we'll have to correct
Herbert.
our big board then.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but yeah,
I did that. Yeah.
it did not change the over under on our big board
No,
or the spread. So none of the results were affected
no,
by that. Yes,
no.
thankfully.
Um, yeah, thankfully. So 35-6 loss. Yeah, big victory for Jacksonville. And maybe they're turning things around again. They beat the Chiefs. They beat some good teams this year. So, maybe they're um, a real playoff threat out of the AFC South. Um,
The Chargers really had like nothing going apparently. Herbert only had 81 yards passing. They like no one on the rush side had basically they only ran like we only had one running back that had even 5 carries, Mike. So they were just not having opportunities to do anything during the course of the game. So that's yeah, surprising how bad the Chargers played in that one.
yeah, really bad.
Yeah.
So we'll get through my loss of the week. I had one loss of this week in my locks. It was much a different story than your worst loss. Mine was, very nearly a win, but it was a little strange game. We'll talk about the game a little bit, but it was the Rams. I had the Rams -2.5 at home against Seattle. Um, the Rams ended up winning that game, but they did not win by 2.5. They only won by 2 points over Seattle, 21-19. So I was a half point off my lock. So that was my lone loss was that half point loss. So it could have gone either way. I'm a little disappointed the Rams didn't win by more, especially trying to take advantage of the Seattle turnovers. There are 4 interceptions thrown by Sam Darnold. You think if somebody throws 4 interceptions a game, they're probably going to lose the game by more than just 2 points. And Seattle actually had a chance to win the game at the end if they could have kicked a 60-plus yard field goal. I think they actually did kick one, but there was a timeout called, and the second kick from Seattle's kicker did not go in. So, um, yeah, so they lost by 2 points rather than the requisite three, which would have been necessary for me to take that as a winning lock of the week. So that was my lone loss of the week. Um, how about you actually had a bet on that game as well, didn't you, Dr. Scott?
And yes, the result of that of what you talked about, also led to my loss of this week. Also, in the I had the over in that game at 48.5. They only got to 40. Rams left points on the board early too. Like they had a turnover on downs inside the Seattle 10, which probably should have led to points, but got nothing instead. Seattle, obviously, like you mentioned, missed a field goal at the end too. So, had those two things happened, if say the Rams got a touchdown and for some reason Seattle was still kicking a field goal late, even though they wouldn't be in a position to do so. That's an easy like just two plays there. You could say like, well, that could have been more points at least anyway to be closer to that over under, but ended up being needing two scores to get there. They did not. So I had my second loss of the week, Mike. So how about your next game? Now we're into some
Oh,
wins.
and some wins. Yeah, I had um, Chicago at Minnesota. Chicago was actually 3-point underdogs at Minnesota. I actually predicted on the big board as well Chicago to win outright, and they did win outright. They won a close game, 19-17 at Minnesota. So they pulled it out in the end. Did the Bears? The Bears have been quietly becoming a solid team this year. Um, what are they're six. They're um, 7-3.
7-3 now, yeah.
7-3 now. They're leading the NFC North. I don't think any of us would have picked the Bears to be the leading team in the NFC North this year, especially with the Packers and Lions playing, being sort of Super Bowl favorites. The Bears actually are 6 point. They've scored six fewer points than they've allowed this year, so their Pythagorean rating is not as high. Or whatever you want. Points, their point differential, not the Pythagorean, but point differential rating is not as high as you might uh, want, but they're still the record is still
You're
solid.
like an expected win total, right? Based on point differential. That
Yes,
that is what the Pythagorean is for baseball.
okay. Their expected record would be about 5-5. So,
Yeah.
um, um, yeah.
So
So
you did have the correct term. So
yeah, okay. I was just
uh,
confused a little bit. Yeah.
yeah.
I think I was thinking of like third order wins or something like that. The ones
Oh,
with
okay.
the record's
Uh,
a record. Yeah. But yeah, the Chiefs, the Bears won outright. They were 3-point underdogs, and then they won at Minnesota 1917. Low scoring game as well. So my unders this week were clicking for me on the big board. 10 out of the 15 games this week were under the over under predictions. So my blanket unders also became a good bets this week as well. So this was a good week for me on both the big board and the locks of the week. You at least did somewhat well on the big board, even if you've lost all three of your locks of the week. What happened with your third game, Dr. Scav?
I lost that one too. And it was another odd one for how the line moved during the week. I had the over in the Baltimore Cleveland game. Baltimore ended up winning 23-16 to get to 39 points. Over under at the time we made the bets for our show for the locks of the week, it was 41.5 was the line. It did drop to 38.5 by the time that we made our decisions on the big board. So they actually did trip the over uh, on the big board, but my lock of the week was made earlier, so I ended up taking the loss there again. Uh, Baltimore played relatively well in this one. We did see the debut of Shedeur Sanders for Cleveland, but he was largely ineffective in the second half. Uh, and there were some kind of oddity stories that came out of that week. Mike, are you surprised that Shedeur Sanders, being the second string quarterback, apparently had not taken any snaps with the first team at all since training camp? Does that
Yeah, it
seem
seems to be
shocking to you?
a bit irresponsible from Stefanski's point of view because, it was Dylan Gabriel as the starter most of the last few weeks after they traded Flacco away. So you would think, well, you think if you want Gabriel probably to take the lion's share because he's a young quarterback, but you also have to prepare for the worst and hope that, he doesn't get hurt. But, it's a very big possibility that the backup quarterback will play, especially, in the NFL where, things happen to quarterbacks fairly frequently. You can't predict also what will happen. So it seems like there should have been some contingency plan with Sanders taking more of those reps, but yeah, Sanders played very poorly when once he got in. So basically, the Browns didn't have much of a chance to. They had a big lead at the beginning of the game. I think they were 16, had 16-6 or something like that, and then they lost 22-16 after Gabriel got hurt. So it was not a not a great not a great game for the Browns, of course, but the Browns did keep it close, I guess. But uh, that was something that I believe I had predicted for the big board. But
It was a 7.5 point spread.
yeah,
The
and they
uh,
kept
the yes, the Ravens ended up winning by 7. I had the over. You had the under
23-16. I had the under. Yeah,
on that one. So another obnoxious loss
yeah.
for me that you benefited from. That's what makes me angry though, Mike. Is that and I
Uh,
don't care if I win or lose, but if you are on the other side of it, then that does not make me happy, Mike.
well, I was one half off on. I went with the under 38.5, and they got 39. So we were each a half point off on the
In that
spread
game.
or the over under. So it shook out evenly. We did both get the money line right because each I don't think either of us would thought the Browns were going to win that game. But
No.
maybe had Gabriel stayed in, the Browns might have won that game. But he was out for the concussion, so uh, he went down. Um, my third lock of the week was my second victory of the week. I briefly previewed it before, but it was Carolina at Atlanta. Carolina was a 3.5 point underdog at Atlanta, but in Carolina, in distance from Charlotte to Atlanta is not very far, and the Panthers had already shut out the Falcons at home this year, so I thought maybe the Falcons and Carolina Falcons don't match up very well against Carolina. I was almost very wrong because Carolina started out kind of slowly, and then they came back and won. But then they came back and won the game in overtime. So they got both the outright win, which I had predicted, and the spread. So they were 3.5 point underdogs, and they won outright by 3. So Carolina 30-27 victors over the Falcons in Atlanta turned out to be my second victory of the week. Good luck. So I was 2-1 on the week. You were 0-3. I believe that has shifted the season balance of locks of the week to my favor, but we're still neither of us are that close to 500 right now. I believe I'm 14-19 and you're 13-20. So we both need a couple of really good weeks to at least even sniff 500 territory, but maybe we'll get there. We still have several weeks left in the season. We have 7 more weeks after this. Um, so we'll see how week 12 treats us. But yeah, anything else we want to talk about in week 11 of the NFL? Any other games that were
Mm,
interesting?
let's see. Oh, yeah, we should mention a little bit about because it had implications on the big board too, which we'll recap here in a second too. But the Dallas Raiders game, Mike, where we had a couple of things that were kind of note, at least for the over under, was that we got up to the 49th point of the game on a safety, which is kind of funny anyway. Where the over under line was 49 and a half. So they got to 49 on a safety. Dallas ended up running, I think, 6 plays inside the 15 or so in the fourth quarter with chances to kick field goals or possibly score a touchdown and did not. They went for it on a 4th and 2 at one point. Had a guy open, just dropped it and would have possibly gotten into the end zone, but definitely had the first down, but did not get it.
And they
So
had a
he
kneel
ended up,
down at the end as well.
yeah, so late kneel down to end the game. So
Yeah,
a couple of like there were a lot of like very odd games I think this week again. Uh, but I don't know, Mike. This has been fairly inconsistent, but we did do better this week on the big board as a whole. So we both ended up positive.
yeah. You won about $84. I won about $1,084 or so.
Yeah.
I won almost $1,000 more than a little over $1,000 more than you did. Um, And but a lot of that came about because we picked the money lines so well this week. I was actually 13 out of 15 on the money line, and you were 11 out of 15, which is pretty good. But um, I did really well on the over unders. I was 10 out of 15 on because I went by blanket under. Finally, the unders were cashing this week for me, so it was a good week for me. I actually finished above on the money on the spread as well, so I was profitable in all three phases this week. But still, it shows that even if you're profitable all three phases, I still only won 1,000. I've lost like $2,000 in a week, pretty before. So it's hard to win as much as it is. It's easy to lose, I think. Um,
Oh, for sure.
yeah. So even though I was up 1,000, I'm still almost 3,000 under for the season, and you're a little about 1,800 under for the season. So I'm getting closer to you every week, but it seems like lately, but I'm still well under profitability uh, right now. So
Yeah, the last 2 weeks you picked up like almost 3 grand on me. So
yeah, but it's been yeah, I had to yeah, I got 70%. I got 70.45% of the picks correct, 31 out of the 44. I guess there were 40 because there was one push on
yes,
the spread this week, and that was the Giants Green Bay game. The Giants were 7-point underdogs, and they lost by exactly seven at
yeah.
home to the Green Bay Packers. Um, but yeah, this was a week that was pretty good for both of us, especially for me. But yeah, the locks of the week were a different story for you, Dr. Scaff. So hopefully this next week coming up, the week 12, will be kinder to you in both, especially the locks of the week. But you want to segue into our uh, baseball discussion very briefly? It was award season in baseball. You want to talk about any of the award winners?
I think maybe just like run through them real quick and see what you thought was interesting, maybe of any of these. Uh, MVP races weren't terribly surprising. They're both repeat winners. Aaron Judge won in the American League, and Shohei Ohtani picked up the National League. Surprised at all either one of those?
Well, you thought maybe Cal Raleigh might come close to winning it in the American League. He did come close, but
It was
um,
pretty close.
Raleigh had
It
a great season
was
for one of the great catcher seasons of all time.
it was only 20 points separating them, 355 to 335, or 17 first place votes to 13 first place votes for Raleigh.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh had 60 home runs. He only batted 247, which may have hurt him, I think.
Yeah.
Um, what a judge. Yeah, Judge had 53 home runs with a 331 batting average. So I think maybe that was Judge had hit almost as many home runs, but had a much better average than Raleigh did this year. So maybe that was part of.
Yeah. Apparently, yes, the position effect wasn't enough, playing the more premier position at catcher to overcome the difference in batting average then.
Yeah, apparently not. In terms of WAR, uh, Raleigh only had 7.4 WAR to Judge's 9.7. So then again, that was a clear victory for Judge. Actually, Bobby Witt Jr. was third in WAR. He finished fourth in the MVP race. 7.1 WAR. He actually had a um, kind of a down year compared to 2024, but he still had a very good year. Did Bobby this year? Um, yeah, Otani being the unanimous winner was not that surprising. Although Kyle Schwarber, you think maybe he only if Schwarber had a higher batting average, he hit 56 home runs and 132 RBIs. If he again, it seems like batting average was a uh, at play. Maybe his defense wasn't as good, but yeah, I don't know. I guess there wasn't really I guess a close.
They're both DHing, but Otani pitches sometimes and has been working back in as a starter
Yeah,
on the mound, and Otani's yeah, they're both leadoff hitters actually most of the time. So yeah, because even Schwarber ends up being
mhm,
a leadoff guy most of the time, I think, at this point,
yeah,
which is surprising. But yeah, they've got these dominant power hitters sitting at the top of the lineup is a little different from what old school baseball was.
yeah. And Juan Soto had a little bit of a down year too for the Mets compared to last year for the Yankees, I think too. So uh, Soto, I think, had a slow start to the season. He ended up doing pretty well, but
Yeah.
4 home runs, 38 stolen bases. But um,
And I thought Soto's absence would have more of an effect on the Yankees than it ended up having, I think. Because Judge still had an awfully good season for not having one of the best protection people in the lineup in Juan Soto, right?
yeah,
But let's see. The Cy Young winners were Tariq Skubal from Detroit, uh, fairly dominantly winning that over Garrett Crochet, Mike. That's one of my favorite names in baseball, Garrett Crochet.
yes,
It sounds like it belongs straight out of the coast of London, right?
yes,
And then in the National League, Paul Skeens won unanimously, although he becomes the first Cy Young winner to have a non-winning record, Mike. You
it
find
was
that
10.
to be surprising.
It was 10-10 with an under two ERA, so I guess you had to look at the team they're playing for. So I guess it kind of goes against pitcher wins as the be all end all thing. But yeah,
As it kind of was for fairly significant part of baseball history, right?
yeah, pitcher wins was a big deal for at least through the 20th century. Maybe by the time the 21st century rolled around, it hasn't been as big a deal.
Yeah.
Uh, but being a 20 game winner or was seen as much better even than a you know ERA of 1 point difference or something like that. So yeah, so it's a loss for some of the old purists. Although in terms of WAR, Skeens was not the number one ranked pitcher in terms of WAR. That was Christopher Sanchez uh, in Philadelphia. So who finished second in the unanimous, I think a unanimous second, uh, well, or nearly I, I can't tell, but he finished second in the Cy Young race in the NLs. But um, yeah, so I think both Skubal and Skeens were well-deserved winners, and I think it kind of shows again why the Royals didn't make the playoffs. They didn't have a single pitcher in the top 10 this year in the Cy Young race, where they had I think two in the top five last year when they had Reagans and Lugo both challenging Skubal as the Cy Young winner. So the pitching for the Royals wasn't as good this year as it was last year. We also maybe failed to mention that um, Michael Garcia also got a few votes for the AL MVP, finishing 14th in the AL MVP race for the Royals. So he also had a great uh, season in terms of WAR, 5.8 WAR. So
It did land in the Gold Glove though too, which
he
was
landed in the Gold Glove, as did yeah, the Platinum Glove winner, Bobby Witt Jr.
that's
So
right.
um, yeah. Any other one?
Maybe just real quickly, the rookies of the year. In the American League, we had a Nick Kurtz uh, winning handily over Jacob Wilson, his teammate from the Athletics. Does that make you much more worried about the A's in the American League for maybe quite a few years now, Mike?
Well, Kurtz, I think he had a really good year.
Yeah,
Uh, Wilson was pretty good. He had about a 311. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I guess you guys maybe it bodes well for the future Las Vegas athletics. But it's hard to say. The A's, have had lots of times have good prospects and they pick good players, but then they can't keep those players because they're cheap and they just don't have the money. So they're who knows how long it'll last for them. But it's one of the things you kind of think about. The Royals picking Jack Caglianone. Should the Royals have could the Royals have gotten Nick Kurtz? And if Kurtz had played for the Royals instead of Caglianone, would he have had similar statistics, or would Caglianone have had similar statistics as Kurtz if he had played for the A's? It's hard to say. They're both kind of similar players, at least um, great college hitters that were sort of first base outfield type players. But Noah Cameron of the Royals finished in fourth place in the AL Rookie of the Year voting. The top pitcher
It was actually
finished.
tied for third, wasn't he? Wasn't a three-way tie for third?
Let me see. I'm just looking at the. I see him as no, I see Roman Anthony as second, Cameron as fourth. Roman Anthony is third, Cameron is fourth, and Colson Montgomery is fifth.
Well, this has them all tied with 115 points each, is what the ESPN article has it listed as.
Oh, strange. I have him at 54 points I'm looking at the baseball reference. Uh,
Ah,
so I don't know what's
oh, this is on a different leaderboard here. That's weird. Yes, Roman Anthony 72 votes. No Cameron 54. Colton Montgomery 23 votes. Yes, yes. ESPN has an article where they listed multiple ways to rank them, apparently, not just the ballot. Never
uh
mind then. I was looking at the wrong list. But yes, fourth for Noah Cameron. Yes.
Rookie of the Year was Drake for the Atlanta Braves. It's like the American League had more, I don't know, bigger stars as this year, the rookie stars compared to the American and the National League this year. But in terms of total WAR overall among rookies, Noah Cameron was actually second in the entire major leagues with 3.8 WAR, wins above replacement, and Kurtz was 5.4. So you can say that the Cameron was maybe the second best rookie of the year and the best rookie pitcher in either league. Uh, although
Not too bad.
Cade Horton had a 2.67 ER, 11 and 4 record. Uh, for the Cubs. He had a very good pitching record, but he was only 2 WAR though somehow. So I'm not sure what happened with him compared to Cameron. I don't, maybe fielding. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Or maybe it's just a number of games, maybe just,
Well, he only had two fewer starts, so it's a little yeah. I don't know.
or maybe he didn't throw as many innings.
Let's see. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he was only going like 5 innings or so per game and something like that.
It could because there's a bit of accounting. 20 more innings Cameron had, so I don't know if it would make that big of a difference, but maybe
Yeah, I don't know. Well, what was Cameron's WAR?
3.8.
Yeah, that's a big difference to 2.0.
Yeah,
Wow, that is, yeah. That seems surprising that it's that much.
it must be fielding or something that maybe, or maybe some defensive metric that Horton was.
Like markedly bad at, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems surprising that it's that different.
He only had a 929 fielding percentage. He had that seems pretty low for a player. What was Cameron's fielding percentage? It was 943, so maybe a little better, but not that big of a difference. I don't know.
Yeah, it's only one error.
Yeah. Cameron had no errors. No, Cameron's fielding percentage was 1,000, so Cameron had no errors.
Yeah, it's like you can't have no errors in a
Yeah.
non-thousand fielding percentage. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just I'm not sure how they did it, but
Or were there a lot of like wild pitches or pass balls from? Does that factor into the
that
WAR?
could perhaps as well. Maybe base runners how they caught stealing against him or yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
Or
know.
is this what already who do you have up right now?
I have Cameron up right now.
Okay, I've got Horton up. Uh they did like Cameron hit a lot of batters?
Um,
There's a hit by pitch, balk, and wild pitch are three in a row.
three. So hit by pitch is three.
Six
No,
for
no balks and
no
three wild.
balks. Only one wild pitch for Horton.
ERA plus 137 for Cameron.
144 Horton.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
What was his what was Cameron's strikeout per nine?
7.4.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to like dig into this a little more off the air to see if we can figure out what's going on here. What like where the difference in WAR came from? That's yeah, that's surprising that it's that far apart. It's almost double. And we had
Yeah,
really similar stats. So yeah, we'll do a warning track power hour investigation off the air. Report back next week.
we can. Yeah, if we
Yeah.
remember.
Yes. Or not. Whatever.
Yeah, so should we move on to week 12 of the NFL? We have the Chiefs playing at home against the Colts in a kind of another must-win game, it seems like, for the Chiefs to keep their playoff hopes intact, at least reasonably intact. They're playing against the 9-2. Was it
Eight and
nine and
two.
8-2? I guess they had a bye this week. The Indianapolis did.
Yeah.
So Indianapolis is coming off a bye, right?
That sounds right.
Or did they have a bye earlier this year?
No, this must have been earlier. It wasn't last week. I don't even see their bye.
Okay, so it's been a little while. So Indianapolis. No, they had a bye last. It was a bye
Oh, no,
last.
it was last week. I was already on that page apparently. Yes, it was last week. You are
Yeah, so
correct.
Indianapolis coming off a bye, which maybe is also kind of not good for the Chiefs. But the Chiefs are going to be at home. They've won all their games but one at home. They lost the early game to Philadelphia, a close game in week two. But um, the Chiefs are favored by 3 points against the Colts. They've been favored in all these games recently. So do you think the Chiefs will bounce back and beat the Colts this week at home, Dr. Scaff?
Uh, I really don't know what to think of this one, Mike, honestly. I would like to say yes, but I can't confidently say yes. So Uh, yeah, the 3 point spread is just kind of the standard home team advantage, right? So they're basically saying that the teams are
Roughly even.
even. But since it's in Kansas City, maybe that's enough of an advantage to have the Chiefs win by a field goal. I would like to say that they'll win a little more handily, but they haven't been winning one score games. So if we expect them to win, we're probably expecting them to win by at least 10 points or so. Do you think they have a 10-point win in them? Like,
I do actually. I am. This is making my first lock of the week. I think partly because I am wanting to will the Chiefs to victory. This is a very homer pick, but my Chiefs -3 at home against Indianapolis is my first lock of the week. I think if I haven't bet on, I don't think I've bet on the spread for the Chiefs since week one, which has was a loss to the Chargers, also when they were favored by three. But it was technically an away game in Brazil. But here the Chiefs are at home. They really need a win. If they don't win this week, I think they're really in trouble because basically they have to win out almost to ensure playoff success. So I'm picking the Chiefs -3 against Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis is a good team, but I don't think they're as good as the Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs at home, the Arrowhead crowd will will them to a strong performance and hopefully will them to victory. The Chiefs have been playing really well at home the last few games. They've been winning by, multiple touchdowns, multiple scores each time. So let's do Chiefs -3 as my first lock of the week.
does the -3 flat there, does that give you a little bit of second thoughts there about the
Well, if it were -2.5, I'd definitely go for it. Minus
yeah.
three and a half, I still wouldn't be that. Would also maybe go for it, but not nearly as. I would prefer a -2.5 for the Chiefs there. But although the last time I had -2.5 was the last week when I had the Rams -2.5, and they only won by two. So it's possible that the Chiefs will win, but only by 1 or 2 points. So. Uh, I like the I basically I do think the Chiefs really have to win. I think Mahomes is probably gonna have to put the team on his back a little bit in this week and play up to his level and maybe ignore some of the uh, I don't know. So I don't and the naysayers and the uh, maybe even just ignore some of his own teammates and just try to win the game rather than maybe spread the ball out as much as he's been doing, especially just go with a hot hand. He's been doing that a little bit more with Kelsey lately. But maybe again if Rashee Rice is not having a game, don't have to work him into the game, don't have to work Worthy into the game, don't have to work Hollywood Brown or every other player. Just kind of go for the open guy um, and just be more organic about it rather than uh, just maybe than trying to make sure everybody's happy. I don't know if that's part of what's going on, but it's been a yeah. So it's gonna be at home, so I think the Chiefs are gonna win. So that's why I made my lock of the week.
Well, and seeing how the Chiefs have performed this season, when they win by more than one score, right? So the three
Yeah,
point spread is something you should not even be worried about at all, right? Unless it was like an 8 point spread, and then you'd be like, okay, well, they can
Mhm.
still win by two more than one score, 9 point spread. Say they can win by two scores but still push, and you don't like that as much then, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't
No.
have. If it's been Chiefs +9 or Chiefs -9, I would not have picked that as my lock of the week, even though I want the Chiefs to win desperately.
Yeah.
But this game, I think, is going to be my lock of the week. What about your first lock
Well,
of the week?
and if we use our recent success, you should be picking the Chiefs to win -3, and I should be saying that they're probably not going to win. And then we've basically guaranteed their win that way, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. No. I don't think that's how it works, Mike. But it's
No.
nice thought though, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
all
Candy
right.
cane. How about your lock
Uh,
of the week, number one?
my first lock, I'm gonna go to a game of the week that we tend to not bet on, but of recent on the big board, we've been doing quite well in the Thursday night game. I do like the matchup that we have this Thursday night. We've got Buffalo at Houston, uh, and Houston with at this point, we don't know which quarterback will be going, if it's CJ Stroud or Davis Mills in relief. But Buffalo's favored by 5.5. I would guess that they will be, after rolling this last week, that they're going to try to be keeping that momentum going and try to handily win another game here, especially on the short rest against Houston, who's kind of who have won a couple games, but they've not played super well for the entire game. So I expect to see Buffalo to win by at least a touchdown in this one. So we have Buffalo minus 5.5 at Houston for my first lock of the week.
Hmm. I could see that happening. Although we also thought Buffalo was really rolling after their victory uh, against the Chiefs, and then they went to Miami and
Late in it.
egg. So we don't want that to happen again. But it's hard to say. Yeah, I think especially if Stroud isn't playing, I think, and it seems to be that they're leaning towards Mills right now. Um, then I don't think that's a bad pick. But Buffalo's been up and down this year too. So it's as of the Texans. So it's just tough to pick. It's tough to pick any of these games, I think, really. And you just have to kind of go with what do you think is gonna be right 55% of the time rather than
Right.
45% of the time wrong. And it's
Apparently, it was announced today that Stroud is out for the Thursday
okay.
night game. So continuing issues with the concussion. So
Yeah. Well, that's not good
Mills
for
is expected to start.
Stroud. Maybe his long-term health even. If he's out still that must have been a pretty severe concussion. He's been out the last 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, well, I mean, like if they miss Sunday's game, it's not like the window to get through a
Thursday.
concussion
Yeah.
protocol for a Thursday game is, I think, fairly narrow. So if
Yeah.
he didn't play Sunday, it's probably, I mean, unless he passed before Sunday, but then they held him out as a precaution
Hmm.
with the expectation that he'll play on Thursday. That's a possibility. But if he's still in protocol Sunday, he's probably not getting out in time for Thursday. He's probably only got
Yeah.
one test to take successfully, or he's not playing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know if that means anything necessarily. Short window probably is maybe
Yeah.
not actually as much information as we like to be able to put on it.
Well, Buffalo's challenging New England for the AFC East lead, although they're behind New England now in their playoff run. I am betting against New England this week, but not necessarily that New England won't win, but the New England is favored by 8.5 points at Cincinnati this week. I see Cincinnati is trying to keep that game close. Flacco's been playing pretty well, I think. Although it's possible that Jamar Chase maybe I don't know if he'll be suspended. He'll be hopefully not for my sake because he had that spitting incident last week with Jalen Ramsey. He might get fined this week. Maybe he'll be out for revenge. But I think Cincinnati can keep it close, at least within a touchdown against New England. They probably won't win, but I think New England on the road in Cincinnati, 8.5 points is a lot of points to beat. Again, a team that's not the Bengals haven't been terrible this year, even though they haven't had Burrow, but they're not winning a ton of games either. But they're not one of the dregs of the league. They're not Tennessee. They're not. Um, Either the Jets or the Giants either. So uh, I think the 8.5 points is a lot of points for any team especially a team. Drake May is still a young quarterback. I think the Patriots are still a young team. I don't know. 8.5 points on the road is a lot of points to ask for. So I like the Bengals to keep it at least somewhat close. So I'm going Bengals plus 8.5 against New England.
It does look like Jamar Chase was suspended for a game. He did appeal it, and the appeal has already been denied. So he will be sitting out on Sunday.
So I mean, that's why they 8.5. But T. Higgins
Yeah,
still a good receiver. They still have a lot of good players. So
right. And a veteran quarterback who knows how to lead a team. Not they're not Cleveland where they're on their fourth QB and going to a guy that hasn't taken snaps with the first team all season, right?
hmm
Yeah, yeah. And it's a big spread, 8.5. That's
yeah,
not
big
crazy.
big spread.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although not one of the largest spreads of the week, though. There were
there were
uh,
three double-digit spreads.
three
Yeah,
games over 10, one at 13.5 even, I think, right? So,
two at 13.5. I think the Jets and
oh yeah, Jets in Baltimore,
Baltimore's 13.5, as was
Seattle at
yeah,
Tennessee,
Tennessee. Yeah.
and Jets at Lions was the 10 and
Yeah,
a half
Giants at
spread.
Lions is 10.5. Yeah. I think, well, that's one of the games I will be betting on. Should I just make, since you mentioned Giants at Lions, I will be betting the Giants Lions game, but not on the spread. I will be betting on the over under. It's an over under 50.5. I'm going to be going, not surprisingly, with the under 50.5 on the Giants Detroit. I can see Detroit coming out big this game in holding the Giants to not very many points, or I could see kind of a defensive struggle between the two teams. But I like because Detroit hasn't been playing terribly well this year. They're down to 6-4 now on the season. Um, they're actually in uh, third place in the NFC North right now.
Yeah,
So maybe
half a game
Detroit
behind the Packers
half a game
with their
behind the
tie.
Packers, a game behind the leading Chicago Bears. So
That's right.
we'll see what happens. The Giants could keep things close. I had thought maybe I'd take the Giants plus 10.5, but I decided for my lock, I will just do the under 50.5. How about your third lock of the week? Send you
So
some.
do you think in that game, just real quickly, do you think that's a close game, or do you think it's you sort of hedging that maybe Detroit does come out and blow out uh Giants, but they don't, but they keep the Giants from being able to score many points because it is a pretty high over under. You're not worried about one team going
Mhm.
over on their own, right?
Yeah, I'm not, it's basically I'm more worried about um I guess I believe it could be a close game, but I also believe it could be a blowout too. But I think if it's a blowout, the Giants are going to have like fewer than 10 points. And if it's not a blowout, I think the Giants might be able to hold. If it's not a blowout, I think they might be able to hold the Lions to, something like 24 points or something like that. So
Yeah.
um, I could see it a close. If they keep it close, it'll be because they're holding the Lions down. But if it's a blowout, I think they'll have not very many points either. So that's kind of my two possible scenarios where I think it could be under. But if it's a shootout, I'm kind of screwed. But I'm not predicting a
Yeah.
shootout.
Low chance of a shootout, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So that leaves me with two picks left to make still for the final locks of the week. You went to betting against one of the AFC leaders. I'm going to bet against one of the NFC leaders in the Packers. They've got a division rivalry game with Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota's 6.5 point underdog. I think this game's going to be relatively close. So I'm going to take Minnesota at plus 6.5 at Green Bay. Green Bay's been playing some kind of close games recently, so I think that trend is going to continue. Uh,
Yeah, I think
any notes on that? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think you could be right on that one. Green Bay has been playing too well. They haven't been blowing a lot of teams out lately either. So, um, yeah, I think yeah, they've been keeping games close even though they've been losing some. So McCarthy's maybe bound to break out a little bit once one of these games. So, and I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like in Green
Hmm.
Bay this weekend.
I
Uh,
haven't even
but
looked at that. Yeah,
But even though Minnesota is a cold weather team, they're a dome team, so maybe that'll be a factor, but maybe not. Are you
Yeah.
looking? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I'm pulling up the weather here. Moderate, partly cloudy, 47. Unlikely to be weather
yeah,
affected.
not too effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like a 25 and snowy type of game. So yeah, no, nothing too crazy. And my last pick, I'm going to go with an over, which is going to basically just assume that Mike is going to be betting against me on this one. But in the I like sometimes picking a game that you wouldn't necessarily just by looking at it expect it to be a high scoring game, but every week it seems like there's at least one of these, two teams that are sort of mediocre that end up in a shootout. And I think this week's version of that will be the Atlanta at New Orleans game. I believe it's the lowest over under number four. Oh no, it's the second lowest. The lowest being the Cleveland Las Vegas Raiders game at 36 and a half. This Atlanta at New Orleans is 39 and a half. So I'm going to be picking the over in this game, Mike.
Well, I'll be reflexively picking the under in that game. I guess I would say that, well, probably the Saints won't score very many points, and the hopefully the um, Falcons won't score many either. So maybe it's one of those 21-17 type games. So that'll be 38 total, something like that, 20-10. One of those low scoring, boring
Hmm.
affairs the NFC South can bring us sometimes. So
I think it's going to be one of those ridiculous scores that you like when you look at the score sheet, you're going to be like, how did these two teams manage to put up 76 points? This is just really surprising. But I think it's going to be one of those. Every week there's one of those. I think this is that one.
mhm,
No, we'll see.
we'll see. We will see. We'll see what happens. Should we any other games this week that you're looking forward to uh watching?
I think we mentioned most of the biggest ones. Maybe one of the more interesting games of the week though is another division rivalry, the Philly at Dallas. Mike, do you have that game being exciting?
That could be
Da
exciting. I could see. Well, it's at Dallas. Dallas. Well, it's gonna be. It could be very high scoring. It could also be. Philadelphia's had a good defensive, been strong defensively lately too. So maybe Philadelphia will
uh,
be able to hold. They held the Lions down to very few points. So maybe they could hold the Cowboys offense to fewer points. I think that'll be an interesting game. I also think maybe the Pittsburgh at Chicago might be interesting, especially depending on who starts at quarterback for Pittsburgh, because that's a game between two playoff contenders right now as well. So Tampa Bay at the Rams is another one of those interesting games. And even
and you mentioned that Pittsburgh game though. It's likely not to be Aaron Rodgers, isn't that right?
probably, yeah, probably Mason Rudolph. I think Aaron Rodgers hurt his hand, so
I think it was
um,
what would they say, like a slight fracture of his non-throwing wrist.
yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, something like that.
He's only
Yeah.
listed as questionable though, so they thought he was expected to be out a short time, but that seems like he would miss at least one game though, wouldn't you think, with a broken wrist?
Mhm.
Although it
Yeah.
is on his non-throwing arm.
Yeah. I think he'll probably, yeah, because non-throwing hand, so they probably will keep him out for a little while, but maybe give him a cast or a bracing for something. It's hard to receive this, even if it's not throwing hand, you still have to receive the snap and be able to hand the ball off and things like that. So it's hard. You need that hand at least somewhat.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're worried about him, like, if he has to go to the ground for whatever reason, that he's trying to use that hand to brace. And that's actually what happened, I think, with the wrist, is that that hand got planted when he was sacked. And
mhm.
so it ended up, twisting the wrist a bit further than it should have. So uh you're worried about something like that happening again, even if it's in a cast. And since it just happened last week, you probably want to be at least a little more cautious, at least this
Yes.
week, right?
Yeah.
But it also kind of depends on what they have to do to repair it. If it's nothing, just cast it and go. Or if he needs some kind of surgery, then Probably want to wait a week, especially if he has to be on like some kind of meds.
Yeah, hard to say
Yeah.
what it is. So, if it's just a yeah. So I guess they'll find out more as time goes on, and maybe see also maybe want to see how Rudolph does by as the backup. Maybe he'll be solid. He's been solid before as the uh, spot starter in Pittsburgh.
Well,
Um,
he's kind of more of a downfield threat than Aaron Rodgers is, really. So,
yeah, at this point in
yeah,
his career for sure.
it could be a
Um,
very different type of game, even just without Rodgers being the starter.
yeah. Um, That could be an interesting game. I think
Yeah.
the Rams hosting the Buccaneers could be interesting. The Buccaneers haven't been playing as well lately, but they're still a solid team. And I think the Carolina at San Francisco could be an interesting game. So those two late West Coast NFC matchups on Sunday night and Monday night both could be decent games, even though the spreads are 6.5 and 7 points. I still think those away teams have a chance of not just covering, but perhaps winning outright.
And those are all winning teams right now too, which is not necessarily what anyone expected, especially for Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
or
yeah,
San Francisco,
right.
maybe even with so many
Well,
injuries that
there's
they've dealt
so many
with.
injuries. Yeah, yeah. Carolina's very surprising. 6-5 Carolina Panthers right now. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So they haven't even gotten to their bye week yet.
no, they have that in a couple weeks, I guess, after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it must be.
Well,
Yeah.
we will be back before Thanksgiving with another episode of the War Trek Power Hour. But we'll wrap up this week's right now. And is there anything else we should talk about before we wrap it up, Dr. Scav?
Hmm. I don't think so. No, we no TV or movie discussion this week.
No,
Anything
not
interesting
that
you
I could
saw?
think. Not that I could think of. I'm gonna try to think of something. We can try to think of something for next week.
Sure.
Well, uh, as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Trick Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and or our podcast, which is available on many different podcast delivery platforms, including the one you're likely to use. We also wish you good luck this weekend in making your bets, uh, at least where your interests do not conflict with ours. But there's so many, I think, interesting games this weekend that you'll probably find something to like this weekend, and it's always difficult to in these difficult to predict uh, forecasting experiences that it's just hard to it's hard to find a good pick I think out there, although some maybe we've got our locks of the week. You can go along with those if you like, because we're I think we're back on track. Andrew had a little bit of a slip up this week with his 0-3, but we're trending. I think we're both trending positively, at least somewhat recently. Um, our big boards are trending positively in the last few weeks as well. So we'll see how that goes. So for next week, we'll be back with another exciting episode of a hard-hitting, hair-splitting analysis here at the One Track Power Hour, where we will just discuss and dissect week 12 and then preview week 13 next week, hopefully, which is an interesting week because we have so many Thanksgiving games and a Black Friday game to discuss. The Chiefs play on Thanksgiving in Dallas, so we'll talk about that game as well. Um, Before the holidays hit us. And then we have of course, the great holiday season coming up, where late November and December football, which is really maybe the best football of the NFL regular seasons, when the playoffs races really start to heat up. Uh, so we'll have that to go for us over the next few weeks. And we'll discuss any other exciting sports or non-sports related subjects that come across our path next time. So be on the lookout for that. We'll probably have something interesting to discuss one way or another. Yes,
Probably.
probably, probably. Yes. Well, until next time, my friends, our loyal viewers and listeners, we'll wish you a good day.